Hi, everybody. My name is Melanie Rogers, and I'm inviting you all to tune in to my show, Flip the Switch, How to Find the Light in Every Dark Shadow, every Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ClearSourceRadio.com and iHeartRadio. Hey everyone, you are now listening to Flip the Switch, How to Find the Light in Every Dark Shadow on the Clear Source Radio Network. And as always, thank you so much for listening. Hey guys, welcome back. Thank you once again for tuning in to Flip the Switch, How to Find the Light in Every Dark Shadow, all part of the Clear Source Radio Network, where people inspire people, and also heard on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Spreaker. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Melanie Rogers, and once again, Happy New Year. Happy New Year 2020. We made it. I hope that you're surviving so far that first week. I personally have had a great week, but the air is light. Everything has lifted. It feels like everything is at such a turning point in life, at least for me. So I have it on good authority that a lot of people are experiencing this light feeling in the air just by talking to other people and social media and stuff. I want to apologize for the background noise. Hopefully that'll be done with in a moment, but I do have some stuff going on outside, and it is kind of distracting for me, so hopefully I'll be able to tune myself in here in a minute. So anyway, let me see my week. What has gone on in my week? Basically, I've just been working, and I will go ahead and tell you this. I was going to hold off until it was a reality, but I don't think I mentioned it. I may have mentioned it last week. I may have given you a teaser last week. But my little Rocky, my rock star beagle, is about to get his Adrian. I have a little baby beagle that a friend of mine actually found walking down the street, abandoned. I don't know the story behind it, and was really sick, actually. She said it was the skinniest dog she'd ever seen, and come to find out when she got it to the vet, I can't remember the name of the illness that this little puppy was suffering. But moral of the story is, after she took really good care of the pup, she still has the pup. She's a little beagle. The vet says she's about 3 months old. I think she at this point weighs about 7 to 8 pounds from what I'm hearing. So she's a little tiny tot, and she's gaining weight, and she's getting over her illness and such. So she is going to be, and of course I'm going to announce her when I finally get her into my homestead, but she's going to be my little girl. We're pretty much, 100% sure of that now. So I decided, to go ahead and tell everybody. I'm really excited about that because, I love animals. And my little Rocky rock star, he needed himself a little sidekick. So I'm happy that he's going to get one, a little small one. It's funny because I've always kind of been around large dogs, other than a Lhasa Apso we had growing up. The best dog ever, the sweetest dog ever, inside dog. Other than that, I grew up around Labs and German Shepherds mostly. But, I'm kind of like a big dog person. I love all dogs, though. So I kind of laugh at the idea that, like, what happened? I'm this big dog person, German Shepherds and such, and now I'm going to have myself a couple baby, or not baby, one baby, but a couple of little beagles. That's getting louder, I know. I don't know how much you can hear. I'm trying to shield you from it, but, there's stuff going on outside. But so hopefully it'll pass in a minute because it's distracting me, like I said. So anyway, yes, I'm going to call her. I was kind of debating. So I'm still up in the air. I'm pretty much maybe 85% sure I'm going to call her Adrian, Addie, or 80 for short, for a little nickname with my Rocky. So I'm going to have myself a Rocky and an Adrian. Or I actually thought it would be really cute to name her Polly with an IE. You know, Rocky and Polly, like the Rocky movies. His sidekick was Polly, a boy. But if I name her Polly with an IE, I think that would be cute as well. So it's either going to be my Adrian or my little Polly. So I'm very excited about this. It's been a long time since I've had a puppy, an actual puppy. So, you know, I'm going to have to prepare for what that entails, at least for a while, you know, breaking her of puppy habits and such. But I'm super excited about that. And of course, like I said, I'll let you know as soon as I do get her. Now, let me see. Before I get into tonight's show, which is basically going to be another little hodgepodge, it's going to be, I decided what I think would be a really great start to the year is to throw out some ideas on how to keep the year going on a positive note, kind of a cleansing note. You know that this year is, the theory behind this year is, boy, am I being distracted. I can't help it. Okay, is focus. Isn't it interesting that that's what I'm trying to focus on, is focus, and clarity. So, that being said, I decided to talk about some of my personal ideas. Well, maybe this is coming to an end out there. I don't know. My personal ideas on some habits that I would like to create for myself in the new year to help stay focused and maintain that clarity without going into a state of anxiety. Okay. What I mean by that, and I'm sure you all realize, you know, sometimes when we're focused on something, or there's, you know, it's pretty clear what's going on in the world or in our lives and such, it might be hard to actually stay in a positive place or in a grounded place. You're aware of too much. It's the same thing as being an intuitive, which we all have intuition. Some of us are more intuitive than others, or we believe ourselves to be so, and I do. But it's a difficult place to be in at some point when you're too aware of too much. How do you stay grounded? I believe that people who are very in tuned with their intuition, even more than others, have to really struggle to stay grounded and to keep focused and to keep balanced. And that's part of my problem, okay? It's just, you know, developing that routine that's going to keep me grounded and keep everything filtered correctly so that I don't have that huge congestion of all of this information that I'm seeing or figuring out or thinking for us overthinkers and deep thinkers. We already had a show about that. You know, the difference between, or my interpretation of the differences between what's considered, or what I would consider, an overachiever an overthinker and a deep thinker. Okay. But some of us are both. Now, okay, so with all that being said, I started thinking about some of the things that I would like to incorporate into my life starting this year, especially right now that things feel light and manageable, now that I'm able to maintain focus and have a little bit of balance going on, and what else? Clarity. Now that things seem more clear, all the congestion from last year, the things that just make you feel like, at least me, and sitting here going, okay, I know there's a reason why. I know that there's a good outcome, but what is it? What is it? I'm in that state now where it's clear. Okay, this happened for this reason, or that happened to teach me that, or that happened to release that and such. So I'm in that state of light air. I feel like there's light air around me. Okay. So, all right. So all that being said, let's talk about some ideas for the new year. Now, one of my main things, and I don't know how many things I'm going to be able to get to tonight, because I also saw an article that I decided to read to you that I thought was an excellent article, and it has to do with habits, forming habits, and old habits and new habits, how to break up with your bad habits, okay, is basically what it is. So I'm going to read through that, and I'm not sure how long that's going to take. But the idea is, obviously, we're at a time right now, universally, where we are focusing, and a lot of things are clear. A lot of our lessons that we learned, it is becoming clear what those lessons are. Not just feeling the congestion and feeling everything that's come up or that we've dealt with or congested ourselves with, but now it's kind of a universal state of mind. Maybe not everybody. Okay, I can't talk for everybody, but I know what I'm seeing is that it seems to be universal, and that's actually the universal prediction. People like Elizabeth Peru, people, all of those people who really pay attention to connecting the universe as it is, they're talking about how focus and clarity is happening right now, and how last year was about congestion and all this stuff coming up. And now it's a moment of realization, like, oh, okay, I'm getting the message from all that I went through and such, right? So staying along those lines, trying to stay in that positive place, trying to stay in that light place where everything is filtered where it should be, at least in my world. When I feel suddenly, after all that time, like everything's put in its proper folder. Okay, I've kind of touched on that before, just that visualization of having so many different things in mind and so many different scenarios or things coming up and whatnot, that when it all comes at you at once, or you're not actually, handling one thing, or what's the word I like to use, processing one thing after another, and it's all, you seem to be like bombarded with all of it at once, then it's hard to stay grounded and such. So right now, while I, and universally, a lot of people are feeling like we have it all kind of sorted out, and it's not as congested and not as, what is the word? Not as, see, I'm losing little words already. I really got distracted by that outside noise, by the way, and it's gone, so yay. We're not so bombarded with an urgency, that's the word. We don't feel like such an urgency to take care of so much at once, at the same time trying to figure out what all it is in the first place. Okay, that's how I feel right now. I feel like everything is more lighthearted. Everything is kind of under control. It's put away so that when I'm ready to deal with one thing after another, or process this or that, whether it's thoughts, feelings, the actual situations, life, whatever, I can pull a folder out. I can say, all right, I'm ready to tackle you. Okay, so that's how I feel right now, and I think that a lot of people are dealing with this. So, needless to say, I want to stay in that organized frame of mind, because that's how it feels. It feels like right now things are organized, doesn't it? I mean, take a moment to think about it. How do you feel right now, especially compared to last year? Do you feel like that bombarded feeling of having so much chaos? And I think, like I said, I think a lot of people felt that. At least that was the feedback that I was getting. That now it feels a lightness, kind of like, it's okay. We can go ahead and, tackle one thing at a time. It's under control. So if you're, within yourself raising your hand, then, welcome to my world. So with that being said, how much would you give of your life right now to keep feeling that way, to keep everything in its folder, ready to be pulled out when you're ready to process or whatever, to keep yourself feeling grounded and on top of everything, okay, instead of going back into that bombarded state of chaos. All right, so with that being said, I think habits are a huge part of that. Changing some things in our lives to keep that grounded footing, keep everything, our heads from filling up too much at one time with a bunch of chaos. Basically, keeping things organized in our own head and keeping our brain calm. That's a huge thing, especially for overthinkers and deep thinkers. Okay, so before I get to the article about habits itself, I wanted to bring up, just so that I have time to actually get to the main part of what I wanted to talk about, some of my ideas on what to do to keep that system going. Now, once again, these aren't things that I've actually experienced on any kind of habitual level to where I'm passing it along to you saying, yes, this works. These are things that I believe will work, that I actually need to incorporate into my life. So if you're there, let's do it together, okay? These are areas that I need to work on, okay? So it's going to be much easier and much better for me to bring it up to you and consider it for myself. And let's see, if we can all end the year 2020 feeling much better by utilizing some of these possible habits. Okay. So to create a habit, now people go back and forth on this. I've heard to actually create a habit that you have to routinely and daily do something, whatever you're trying to create, for 3 weeks, 21 days, 3 weeks. It's the same thing. Some people say 21 days. Some people say 3 weeks. It's the same thing. 21 seems to be some sort of golden number. If you ever watched the movie 21, it's kind of nerve-wracking to realize how much 21 seems to be a key number in our world. It's funny because recently I was talking to my dad. He was listening to one of my shows because he still listens, and I love that. But he was listening and he told me, he's like, I didn't realize how much of a numbers person you were. And I am. I'm fascinated by numbers. You know this, talking about the well-rounded beginning of my 50th year, starting at the beginning of the year, the beginning of a rounded number year, and such. Okay. So anyway, yeah, numbers fascinate me. We're going to have to go into do a show specifically on numbers. But the thing is about those kind of things about numbers, other than the fact that I love calculating, I love even doing my bills. I will sit there and I will recalculate over and over because I don't know, just playing with numbers fascinates me. But the actual numerology, as far as like what numbers mean, I'm not an expert at that. So it's fascinating to me to hear about that kind of stuff from Elizabeth Peru. My dad told me about this woman, and I still need to look it up to see her name, but she's called, what did he say? The numbers, now I can't remember. Oh, it was on the tip of my tongue too. The numbers lady? Something like that. So if you Google it, you'll probably be able to find exactly what my dad was telling me about. So one of these days, I'll really look into that and I'll bring it to you. I learned a lot of different things about, where I say learn about it, I couldn't repeat it. I would have to go and remind myself, of course, through Elizabeth Peru, about doing like your personal numbers, the numbers in your name, the numbers in your date of birth and all that. It's just truly fascinating. I don't know about how to do it though. So I'm only mentioning that because I don't know. We were talking about that recently. So anyway, going back to like forming the habits. Oh, that's where we started with that. That's the first time, as I'm telling you right now, the whole 21 thing actually came back into my head, because when he was telling me about this numbers lady that he was kind of fascinated with, I think he watched her YouTube and thought, wow, that's really interesting, and passed it along to me. I asked him, did you see the movie 21? I'm almost positive it was 21, because 21 seems to be such a significant number. Everything adds up to 21, whether you use the 2 or the 1 or the 21. And the movie was kind of nerve-wracking. Okay, I know it was with Jim Carrey. I'm going to have to go back and watch it. So now thinking about the idea that people say that it takes 21 days to develop a habit, it's just one more thing that links 21 with kind of like a humanity, like a deep-rooted humanity number or something. So it's just all fascinating. It's not my area of expertise, but it's fascinating. So going back where I'm, what I'm talking about now, 21 days to develop a habit. Now there's other people who say it actually takes 90 days or 3 months. Personally, since I've heard so many variations, I think it all depends on what you're trying to develop. And I think it all depends on what kind of person you are. Okay? I don't necessarily believe that there's a golden number for everybody, that if you do this for this amount of days in a row, that you're going to develop that habit. Okay? Because think about this. How many different people are made up in different ways. And I wasn't even planning on talking about that. I'm just going there, I guess. Like people who develop an addiction. Okay? I've actually touched upon that before. Some people, their addictions are different. Some people can develop a certain addiction to drugs, some alcohol, some sex, some gambling, okay? Some food would be a food addiction, anything, and I refer to that as our, I've done so many shows about this, and now I can't think of the name that I put it. Your vices, okay? I link it to what we consider our vices, okay? Which to some extent would be our addictions, okay? The things we fall back on to make ourselves feel either good or reward ourselves for feeling good, okay? So needless to say, I think that if you're the type of person that very easily falls addict to any particular thing, not everybody will become addicted to alcohol, okay? Not everybody will become addicted to food. Not everybody responds the same way. Not everybody can pull themselves away from those addictions, okay? So we're all so different. I don't believe that the number thing is universal for everybody, one particular number. Now, the number thing, as far as like the number of letters in your name, your date of birth, all that kind of stuff, where that's all linked, where you can look up that woman, the numbers lady, I think is her name, and all, she talks about all that kind of stuff from what my dad said, because I haven't looked it up yet. But that's an interesting thing that I just now thought about. I wonder if we all have one specific number linked to us based on that, our name, our birthday, and such, that would also connect to the number of days, the number of whatever, to develop or break an addiction or habit. Isn't that interesting? I think numbers are interesting in that way, to where, I think we all have a lot of patterns, and I think it goes back to numbers. In a certain respect, it goes back to numbers. But, so anyway, all that being said, one of the things, like I said before I start talking about actual habits, one of the habits that I personally would like to develop this year that's going to help somebody like me is calming the brain, okay? Calming our brain via things like meditation, which was more of what I wanted to talk about tonight, but I think I'm probably going to end up leaning more toward the habit thing because of that article. So we'll continue on this note, but work with me on this as possibilities of things to keep us in this golden frame of mind, this lighthearted frame of mind, this moment of clarity, this moment of focus. What disturbs focus? What clouds clarity more than overthinking? Or when our brains get congested? How clear are things when our brain is filled with all different angles? And I'm not talking about perspectives where we look at things from different points of view. I'm talking about scenarios in life or whatever that if you think about it too much, or you have too much coming to you, and like I said before, aren't able to put it in its proper folder to process one at a time, or, before the next thing comes, we get all blurry, right? That messes up with our focus. That messes up with our clarity. Think about those two words right there, okay? We get blurry, okay? Out of focus, things are unclear. Think of a window, okay? Which would be our eyes. Think about how you look through. Think about your third eye. I'm going into a weird place here, but it's only because I'm right now in this moment linking it. Picture your third eye being like a window, okay? And that's supposed to be a window to your soul, and it's also our intuition, right? It's that eye that we know, our knowing eye, not necessarily what we see with our eyeballs. So it's right between our eyes. And think of that as a window, okay? Right now in that moment of clarity and focus, the window is clear. We're able to focus on what's out there. When things start coming at us and we can't stay grounded, we can't process things, the window becomes blurry. It's out of focus. Okay, so visualize that, if anything. I said over and over, I look at things through visualization. I picture things in my mind in that way to explain different things. Okay, I'm a visual person in that way, and that's what I'm going to picture. That when I can calm some of that stuff going on in my brain down, then it's almost like windshield wipers. There you go. Let's picture that. All right. So maybe that's part of developing that habit, is becoming visual in that way. I don't know whether you're a visual person or not. You may look at things a different way. I visualize. So I'm going to start looking at it that way. That when too much is coming toward me and I'm not calming my brain and I'm not staying grounded, that every once in a while what I have to do is turn those windshield wipers on, and maybe just visualizing that will actually help see things clearly again. Maybe I'm going to picture what to do to make those windshield wipers work. Okay, one of those things is meditation. Now I'm talking about meditation because I'm not good at it. I can't go back and say, I'm experienced in meditation so I can tell you that it works. but it makes sense to me because of everything I just said. Visualizing all that and how your brain works in the first place, it makes sense to me that meditation will help keep us in that clear state of mind and be able to focus and keep things more under control without being over controlling in our lives, because I've talked about that before too. Now, before you tune me out saying, okay, we're going into the guru thing, which by now, I go into the guru thing all the time. So I'm sure if you're anti-guru, you're not even listening to the show anymore. But for those people who do, even if you're listening right now and you're like, okay, I really don't want to get into you're picturing sitting there in your yoga pants with, Buddha in front of you, or, smoke and herbs and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't necessarily, in my mind, have to be meditation. The thing about meditation is when you say the words, I think a lot of people automatically visualize that deep spiritual person, and some people don't look at themselves as that person. Meditation is just calming your brain. Meditation is just taking a break, okay? Meditation, to me, can be anything from just stopping for 1 minute and rubbing your temples and just tuning everybody else out and saying, all right, I need to take a breath. And taking a deep breath, okay? That could be meditation, all right? Or anything that might cause you to disconnect from things that are building up in your brain, to allow your brain to take a break, step back, so that all this stuff, that's your conscious brain, by the way, is what I'm talking about. And no, I'm no expert, but this is a visualization once again. Kind of take a break from your conscious brain that you're controlling, that you're sitting here going, okay, now we have to handle this. Now we have to handle that. What about this? What about that? Saying, okay, shut up. Okay, conscious brain, shut up for a second. Let's just give me a moment. And then in that quietness, when everything is nice and calm inside, your subconscious, the knowing, the actual reality, okay, the actual reality part of our brain that we're not in control of. It gives that part of the brain the opportunity to present the reality. So if you're sitting there and you're calming yourself, saying, don't focus on any of the stuff that's congesting my head right now, let's just calm down, then it can be anything from just taking a peaceful moment, taking a break, to allowing that subconscious brain to tell you, to lead you, i.e. me. Okay, once again, I'm talking to me. So, anything that you can do to get to that state, would be a form of meditation. All right? To me, that would be a form of meditation. I should have actually looked up the actual definition of meditation or meditating, as it is spelled out. But me, I just go by what's in my gut, what's in my third eye, which right now is crystal clear. Okay? Right now, that window is nice and clear. So I personally think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start developing the habit of meditation every day. If I can, well, I'm not going to say if I can. Another thing I'm going to do, though, before I go any further with that, is what I've come to realize about myself is that I can be the most disciplined person probably in the world. In my mind, the most disciplined person in the world. If I set my mind to something, whether it's fasting or doing my detoxes, anything like that, if I set my mind that I'm going to accomplish this or that, I can be very disciplined and ungiving within myself. Say, nope, I'm going to do this. All right. There are times I've come to realize that that's such a great part of my makeup. But at the same time, I'm realizing that in some cases with me personally, there are certain things that I might throw in that stubbornness and say, no, you're going to do this, that it might actually hinder my progress. Okay. I learned a lot of that this year. Instead of being so strong and tough with myself to accomplish something, sometimes it just has to come naturally. It has to come more from my heart and less from my head. Because when you really say, nope, I'm going to do this, I think that I personally believe that I am more successful when it's something that comes from my heart. When it's something that it's deep within me that I want to accomplish this, okay? Then when I make up my mind, I have a very strong-willed mind. And the thing is, I can probably accomplish whatever I set my mind to. But as far as developing a habit, I have much greater chance of developing that habit and making it permanent if it's truly coming from my heart. That's everything from some big heartfelt movement to something as simple as I want to start, get back my wonderful habit of super hydrating every day. Okay? Now, I can accomplish stuff like that either way. I can say, nope, I'm going to concentrate on it. It's going to be on the top of my head every day without fail. I'm going to do this. And then eventually it becomes a habit. Sometimes that's the best method for me with something like that. It would be. Or I can say, you know what? I'm not going to be so hard on myself. I want to develop up to this point, whether it's, getting back into my natural health practices or becoming healthy and physical or anything from that to the emotional stuff, whatever it is. In some cases, I'm going to be gentle with myself and I'm going to take baby steps. As long as, I know that that's where I want to go, I'm going to allow it to just happen. Okay. So that was a big realization. I'm not sure how much I actually touched upon it last year, but that was actually a big realization for me last year, is the difference between acting with my heart and acting with my head, and when each situation fits whatever I'm trying to accomplish. Okay. Because some of it ends up being, be more gentle with yourself. Okay. Nurture yourself while you are being your own boot camp CC. Okay. Basically saying, while your head is saying, you're going to do this, you are going to accomplish this, kind of mix it a little with, okay, I'm nurturing myself at the same time. I'm not cutting myself down if I don't, if I don't lose weight as fast as I want to, or if I break away from this or with that. So another huge lesson of last year, because a lot of that's coming up right now, the actual lessons, but the lessons are coming up now in 2020 much more gently. They're coming up with clarity. They're not coming up with frustration like last year. So it's a moment of focus and clarity. And I love that. Okay. So now looking back with all that stuff that, just felt so congested right now in this moment and, over the last couple of weeks, I truly have seen the lessons that I was learning last year. And I'm seeing it from a point of lessons learned, not lessons in progress. The lesson has been learned. Now, from this moment on, it's up to me to make a determination, which I already have, which direction I'm going to go with it. Am I going to go ahead and incorporate changes to learn from those lessons and, now that I'm aware of what those lessons are? Or am I going to go ahead and fall back or whatever? All right. And it's up to me to make those changes. So that's my next step in the process. How many people out there, of course, I don't know if your hands are up, but how many people out there, think to yourself, are going through that same thing? How many people are right now in a lighter state, a more grounded state, a calmer state, clarity and focus, able to finally see why things were happening, or that's coming into your head? Maybe you're in a state of meditation. Maybe that's part of it, is that we all kind of went through. And when I say all, of course, I'm not talking about everybody, but I'm just saying that as a general broad statement, universally, I believe, or maybe I went through some sort of meditation state with the universal flow, because that's what's supposed to be happening, clarity and focus. And in my own personal meditative state, was able to calm all that chaos, relax my conscious brain, and then my unconscious brain finally said, you're ready. You've suffered a lot. You've suffered enough. We've pushed you down enough so that you realize that there were things that really did need to change. Sorry about that. I should have turned that off. So the unconscious is coming up in my meditative state. I think that might be what is happening. I'm in that universal meditative state to where I'm able to stay grounded, focused, see clearly. And now, instead of emotionally reacting to what felt like this heavy anvil on my head all year, it's lifted and I can now see clearly those different lessons that were being taught to me. Because think about it this way. Think about like when you're a kid. I'm that kind of kid. Now, different people are different when it comes to this as well. And I know I'm kind of going deep into it, and I love that I'm able to do that right now. That means I'm able to focus more. So But picture being a child. I was the kind of child and the kind of person that, as much as I was a rule follower, okay, I always wanted to prove that I was stereotypically different, or was actually different than the stereotypes of kids, the stereotypes of teenagers, or whatever. That was always in my makeup to be that way. So I would listen to what I was told. But at the same time, I didn't truly get my lessons, and there were a lot of deep life lessons that I had to experience on my own behalf, okay? And even as an adult, there's scenarios that happen that, like with my parents, instead of telling me, no, this is the way it is, this is the way it is, this is what's happening, whatever, there's like a big scenario that finally happened in my life as an adult a few years back that my parents stood back and said, she needs to, go through this on her own. And I am so happy that that happened, because in this one scenario, it was actually a big deal. I was able to experience it. That's when I learned my lesson. So go back and think about that. How many people as kids, or even older, your boss tells you something, whatever, but I think it's easier to go back to the childhood thing. How many people experienced parents telling you what's going on, trying to teach you life lessons by telling you what's going to happen or what will happen, or, how you should look at things. But you're unable to really have your eureka moment. My Mel's eureka moment happened when I experienced these things. Therefore, I can see the situations clearly instead of just being told to feel this way about that person or that situation, or to do this is the right, this is wrong, other than obvious rights and wrongs. So you see what I'm saying is that a lot of times, it's like last year when a lot of us were going through such a hard time, that the clarity right now, the lesson I'm learning right now, the big Mel's Eureka moment is you really had to experience all of that. You really had to be in a state of chaos. You really had to experience that state of discombobulation, which is one of my favorite words. People know that. You had to experience that, or else you never would have really truly learned your lesson. And now that we let you experience that enough, we're going to go ahead and lift some of that fog. We're going to take the blinders off of you. Now what do you see? You see the lesson in a nice calm state. Eureka. Okay. So, I hope I did a good job explaining that. So anyway, developing these habits. I want to, in the future, because I know I'm going to run out of time, by the way, before I get to all the stuff that I really kind of wanted to give you many different ideas on how we collectively, you and me both, all of us can, pick and choose and decide some of these things to keep us in a nice, focused and balanced state of mind, clarity, so that this year feels so much better, because then we all collectively put out that positive energy and that light feeling and that focus in a good place. Then I think the whole universe, all that energy that's out there, I think that'll change it. I do believe in that. Okay. I do believe in that. The energy and attitudes and such collectively make huge, huge change. Okay. So since, like I said, I'm going to run out of time in the future, probably next week, unless I veer off in a different direction, I would really like to list a bunch of different methods that we can use, or, try to use to, some habits that maybe we can try to establish, or even just some things that we can do to keep us in a great state of mind and keep trucking forward. Take all that information we learned, all those lessons that we took out of, if we're lucky, we recognized and took out the lessons from all the chaos, and how we can keep utilizing that to just get better and better and better and feel better and more lighthearted. And I'm actually excited in this moment. Okay, that's how much of a difference there was between my feelings last year and my feelings just a few weeks ago, honestly, and now. Okay, so I want to pass it along. I want to pass along that feeling of euphoria. Okay, because I think, like I said, collectively, if we put that out there, then the whole universe will feel it, right? Okay, so talking about meditation, just going to talk about that for a few more minutes, and then we can start this article about habits themselves, all right? Now, the meditation thing, like I said, I think that meditation actually slows down your brain, because that's what it's meant to do, all right? Now, some of the different ways you can meditate, like I said, anything from just taking a moment out and tuning everything out and clearing your mind, to I've done this before. These are all different methods for, that help meditate, that help you get into a meditative state of mind. See, meditation, like I said, unless you're doing a very, very regimented meditation where you've got on certain music and you maybe, actual meditation in that way. You've got the fingers, you know what I'm talking about, the little, what do they call it? I know they play that game where when you do your fingers like that, if you actually look at the hole, someone's supposed to punch you. But so, yeah, okay, that's something else. So anyway, anything from that to, like I said, just relaxing your mind, I think that's all considered meditation. So things that we can do that would be considered meditation. We can do everything from just stopping and taking a breath, closing our eyes, and trying to picture a beautiful place that's going to take us out of our own head. It's going to take us to a beautiful place, or even picturing complete dark. What I was starting to tell you is that I've done a few different. I have not developed the habit on my own to just meditate daily, okay, or even weekly or anything. You'd think by now I would be a full-time meditator. You would think, as empathic as I do claim to be, and I feel, and with all the depth and everything else, that I would have found a way to develop that habit. And I'll be darned, it's just like journaling. It's the best thing in the world. I know it will be the best thing in the world for me, but there's something that stops me from actually doing it. So we're going to talk about that in the future, because that's fascinating to me as well. That roadblock, which I've kind of hit upon in the past. So anyway, some of the things that I have done, though, I have gone to classes. I went to this one many years ago with a friend of mine, and it was from the Indian, from the Indies. I don't know what the proper way to describe that is, because I would never be, what's the word? Well, indelicate, I would never, but when I say Indian, you also know that I'm Native American. I do sweat lodges and such. That's why I'm struggling with this. But anyway, they were from India, and I went to this class, and they did a meditation that was also a yoga meditation. So we closed our eyes. We sat a certain way. We had, our comfortable clothes on and, barefoot and such, like traditionally yoga would do. And we did different stretches at the same time we visualized different things. Okay. So let me tell you, when I first got to that class, I was in a state of chaos. I was kind of everywhere. I had social anxiety, because a lot of people might not realize, but at different times in my life, I actually have social anxiety. It comes and goes. Last year was really bad, which was weird for me, because before that, I was that person that had enough confidence to get in front of, big groups of people. And I relished that. I loved it. I've talked about that before, to the point where I can get into a group around people I know, like my own crew, even, at a social setting, and I experience social anxiety. So that shows the chaos and the energy and all that from last year. Me having social anxiety around people I know. Okay. So moral of the story is, when I went to this class so many years ago, it was at least 10 years ago, maybe 12. When I first went in there, I had a little bit of social anxiety, and I was, filled with a lot of different things going on in my head and everything else, from everything, just congested. By the time I left there, I was so calm. And sometimes you hear that on the show, I'm sure. Sometimes it has to do with coffee, and sometimes it has to do with the fact that I've got so much to say. And then there's other times where I feel very calm and grounded. I actually feel that way tonight. I'm excited about my frame of mind, so I want to pass it along to you. So if it sounds like I'm full of anxiety, I'm not at all. I feel great. But by the time I left, I was so grounded, and that's such a great feeling. Sometimes we don't even realize how much stress we feel inside our bodies, inside our minds, emotional congestion, physical congestion, until we do things like detox physically. I talked about that before, and that's one of the things I want to go back and talk about in a future show, as that being part of it. And I'll explain why you don't realize it sometimes until you actually do the detox, and then you feel the absence of the anxiety. It's interesting. Sometimes you don't realize how much anxiety or chaos you have inside your own body or mind until you feel the absence of it, and it's euphoric. I will talk about that soon, because I want everyone to experience that. But anyway, I went to this thing, and honestly, when I got ready to leave, I was so focused. I can pay attention to each and every person individually, which was really hard when I first got there. Felt like people were coming at me from all directions, to where I was very calm, and that's such a great feeling when you feel your world slow down. Lately, I've needed that. This year, that's part of my focus, is as much as I was trying to tackle and still would like to tackle, I need to practice meditation so that I can slow down. And then I'm in the moment really tackling each thing instead of trying to tackle all this stuff in a feeling of chaos from the angle of chaotic. But I could probably accomplish just as much or more, do a better job when I'm able to calmly address each scenario, right? And that's why I want to start meditating. So ideas of meditation would be anything from, like I said, calming, closing your eyes, rubbing your temples for a minute. Even if we can try to focus 1 minute a day. And then once you can get to that place where you can actually clear your mind and feel re-energized or regenerated, I guess, then go for 2 minutes. All right. That's what I'm planning on doing. Starting off as long as I can do it, but I realize that I don't want to start off with a big long one. Unless it's a guided meditation, which is the next thing I want to talk about. You can go on YouTube. You can go and buy it at the store. You can even come up with your own guided meditation. I said before a while back that I actually wanted to do that. I wanted to do a guided meditation, just my own visualization, and I wanted to come on here and do that and see if it is successful. And I believe it will be, because I think it all depends on what kind of place you can take your own mind. So if I want to get to that article, I have to quickly go through this. So things like, you can do a guided meditation. You can go to a yoga class. You can go to a meditation class. You can go to a combination of both. Because what does yoga do? It stops you as well. You have to pay attention to your breathing. They say that when you pay attention to your breathing, that you can't actually pay attention to anything else. So that's a form of meditation. So yoga is already a form of meditation. Okay. But if you combine the yoga and the stretching with thought processes, the breathing, and also picturing things, that's amazing, right? So you can add music, anything that calms you and gets you to that state. You can add binaural tones, but I strongly suggest you really look into binaural tones. Don't just dive into it. I've got a story about that, which is why I'm really touchy about binaural tones. But I will tell you soon, my story about binaural tones. But binaural tones actually mess with your brain a little bit, and it helps you, like if you get the right binaural tones, it'll help you get into that meditative state. Things like just laying there before you go to sleep without just trying to go to sleep, laying there calmly and making sure you stay awake, but you're calming your brain first. Okay. I wanted to go further into that as far as the equivalent of writing things down as well, because I've learned that in my past, that if I'm filled with things in my head, what I try to do and what everyone tries to do is you're full of chaos and anxiety because you're holding on to that in your head, trying to keep track so that we don't forget everything we have to do. But in that moment, we're trying to sleep. So are we going to accomplish any of it by consuming ourselves with those thoughts? No. But isn't in the back of our mind, we're actually trying to hold on to it so that we don't lose it and fall further behind. So writing a list, I think you can link that into meditation, because what it does is it takes those thoughts out of the front of your mind, puts it on paper. You can't forget about it. So suddenly you experience peace, like, okay, I feel calm. I'm no longer worried that I'm going to forget about that. Now I don't have to think about it because I can't accomplish it right now anyway. My priority is sleep. Let's get out everything that's stuck in my head, right? So anyway, that's just one of my thoughts. I'm going to go ahead and get to this article now so that I don't run out of time. And this is how to break up with your bad habits, okay? Which is, kind of a different show. I didn't really get into like the whole bad habit thing, but I thought this was interesting and a great way to start the year. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read this. Now, this is on sunwarrior.com, blogs, Health Hub, how to break up with your bad habits. Just look up that and you'll be able to find it. sunwarrior.com. Okay, how to break up with your bad habits. Have you ever tried to quit smoking or cut out sugary drinks? If the answer is yes, then you probably know that breaking bad habits is tough. Whether you slipped up on your diet or checked your phone during technology detox, it happens to everyone. As much as some people hate to admit it, humans aren't perfect, and it's easy to fall out of a good habit or develop a bad one. What sometimes starts as an occasional oversight can develop into a fully fledged bad habit. Naturally, you want to do things that make you feel good. What did I talk about before? My vices, right? So vices are habits. But this feeling of reward can lead to unhealthy habits. See, I should have actually made this part of of course, I didn't see this until now anyway, but part of that show that I had about vices. Around the new year, many of us start thinking about how to rid of bad habits. The good news is that you can take back control and learn how to break up with your bad habits. 3 steps to break bad habits. Follow these 3 steps to help you break bad habits and form positive ones. Number 1, reward-based learning and bad habits. Number 2, breaking bad habits with mindfulness. Number 3 steps to take to start overcoming bad habits. Reward-based learning and bad habits. Young woman who refuses to alcohol and tobacco. Okay, young girl struggling with her bad habits. How to break up with your bad habits. I'm trying to read how they have this written here. Okay, reward-based learning. Reward-based learning consists of a trigger, a behavior, and a reward. Now we live in a world where our basic needs are met very easily. The problem is that reward-based learning also helps to form bad habits. Isn't that the truth? For example, when you feel stressed, you might reach for a cigarette or binge on cupcakes. Directly after or during, you feel good, but the reward is reinforcing the behavior, which ultimately can be bad for your health. But long term, this temporary satisfaction may lead to some bad health habits. Breaking a bad habit is never easy. It takes a strong mindset, dedication, and repetition to overcome. Bad habits that even the health conscious have. Humans are designed to do more things that feel good and fewer things that feel bad. You might be wondering what counts as a bad habit. Things like procrastination, smoking, using devices late at night, and overspending are all considered bad habits. Originally, reward-based learning was there to help you survive. It was used to help you learn stimuli that were crucial for survival, like finding shelter and getting enough to eat. Why isn't it easier to just eliminate bad habits and replace them with good ones? The research shows that when faced with stress, the brain networks associated with self-control are one of the first to switch off. Breaking bad habits is much more complex than just telling yourself to stop. Willpower is very difficult to always lean on. Rather than focusing on the behavior, you need to focus on the reward. If the reward for breaking the habit is high, you're more likely to repeat the good behavior. Isn't that interesting? So maybe when you get stressed, you take a long, relaxing bath, or you go on a mind clearing run. Find a reward that you can give yourself immediately that doesn't wreck your goals, but helps them. In other words, break those vices, like I always talk about. Let me check the time really quickly here. Oh, okay. A definitive guide to mindfulness for beginners. One study focused on participants who were addicted to stimulants. Over 12 weeks, the group was separated into 2. One group received health education and the other mindfulness training. Researchers measured changes in participants' use of stimulus and symptoms of anxiety and depression. Researchers found that a month after the study, 100% of the depressed participants were off stimulants compared to 50% of the health education group. This suggests that change happens through support and community, not through cognitive education alone. That's a really big one, I think. How mindfulness and living in the moment makes you happier. See, I'm trying to live in the moment these days, and this is going to help me. When the reward value begins to decrease, so does the frequency of the behavior. The reward no longer feels as good as it once did. It's not as gratifying. Dr. Judson Brewer decided to test mindfulness further. He created 3 apps that are designed to deliver mindfulness training through your smartphone. Oh, this is interesting. The apps aim to help break habits like smoking, anxiety, and overeating. Thousands of people all over the world have used the apps. Dr. Brewer and his team published results that show just how powerful mindfulness can be. Here are a few standout results they found when people use their mindfulness training apps. 40% reduction in craving-related eating. I need to do that. I need something to break my habit of craving pizza and pasta. Okay, 5 times smoking quit rates. Okay, that's amazing. 63% reduction in anxiety. Another study found that Dr. Brewer's app for stopping smoking taught users to have more control over parts of the brain. In particular, the parts of the brain that became overactive when smoking cues and chocolate cravings. Wow. Bad habits can often get in the way of good intentions like healthy eating, being more productive, and exercising frequently. Some bad habits can feel so ingrained in your everyday lives that you don't even know you're doing it. But it's never too late to start overcoming bad habits and forming new positive ones. Bring mindfulness to your everyday actions. As silly as it sounds, sometimes saying the action you're about to do out loud will help you choose to do something else. I think that's interesting. Okay, so when you start to feel stressed, say to yourself, I'm feeling stressed, so I'm going to go smoke a cigarette. Then your conscious mind will kick in and remind you that you don't want to smoke. This technique can work for any bad habit you're trying to break. That's actually really interesting to me. 3 steps to take to start overcoming bad habits. Number 1, find out your triggers. Man stressed while working on laptop. Find out your triggers. Oh, I'm sorry. These are these are pictures that I'm not seeing in the article. That's why I'm reading that, and I didn't realize that. Okay, so think about what is happening around you just before you do something that's considered a bad habit. Do you overeat when you feel stressed or put off doing that big project at work? Are you just checking Instagram instead of studying? Focus on the root of the trigger. Identify what it is that makes you turn to bad behavior to get reward in the first place. If you have a heavy workload or are struggling to manage your time, this might trigger you to seek a reward that makes you feel better and less stressed. Number 2 is figure out the value of these behaviors. The next stage is to figure out the value of the reward that you get from certain behaviors. For example, if you're trying to quit smoking, focus on how it makes you feel in the moment. Pay attention to how it makes you feel and if it's really that rewarding at the time and after. You're creating a new awareness that your brain will use to lower the value of the reward. That's really interesting too. Over time, you will see that the reward is less and less, helping you break a bad habit. When a habit doesn't result in the same feel-good emotion you had before, you'll start to lose interest. This is where mindfulness training has its place. You're trying to reprogram your brain in a new way and raise awareness that you didn't have before. Number 3 is replace the reward. The final step in overcoming bad habits is to replace the reward. In order to sustainably break bad habits, you need to replace the reward with something else that makes you feel so much better than the existing behavior. How to break a bad habit for good. One way to experiment with this is by switching the reward for curiosity. Instead of giving into a craving with candy or soda, ask yourself what the craving feels like. Open your brain up to curiosity to try and counteract a negative emotion. Bad habits can stand in the way of you reaching your full potential. There's always time to start overcoming bad habits and forming new positive ones. The next time you find yourself stress eating, reaching for a cigarette, or indulging in sweet cravings, consider how mindfulness could help you break those bad habits. By identifying your triggers and using mindfulness to raise awareness, you can finally break free of bad habits and live the best life. I love that. I'm really glad that I was able to find that article and pass it along to you, because there's so many things that I would love to. I wish I would have started now on that article, because there's so many things that are linked to my thoughts on the shows that I did about vices, analyzing your vices and such. And it makes sense to me. And that's what I love, is that when I read these articles, I realize I'm on track with what I'm seeing, and that my third eye, that window, is clear and focused, because I completely understand all that, and it strengthens my desire to accomplish such tasks. And I'm actually going to use that article myself, and I'm going to do some of those things. And I think I'm going to look up those apps as well. And I'm going to, utilize those ideas somebody else gave me to try to help my life, which is what I'm trying to do for you. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the show, and we're going to continue talking about all of this and try to stay positive in the new year. I hope that the first week has been fantastic for you. Well, actually, the first 2 weeks. What am I saying? It's 2 weeks in. Oh, that shows how time is flying by. So let's make the best of it. Happy New Year once again. Stay tuned now for Tiffany Lewis coming up next on Be the Change. Talk to you next Tuesday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on clearsourceradio.com. Good night, everybody.